Hey guys, I'm Phoenix Gray, and this is LitRPG Happy Hour, where I sample LitRPG and alcoholic beverages. Feel free to drink along if you dare. Today I'm going to be reading a sample of Arcane Kingdom Online, The Chosen by Jakob Tanner, and I'll be playing a game called The Change of Scenery along with it, where I'll take a I'll take a shot every time there is a chapter or scene break. If you want to follow along, pause this video and download a copy of the book sample at the link, or you can just take a drink whenever I do. As a disclaimer, I do not read every book that I sample. This is all for fun and to spread the word about LitRPG and these awesome books. Having said that, let's get started. Today I'm going to be drinking the Christian Brothers brandy. Very smooth. It is not very smooth. I feel like that is a lie. Maybe because I'm not a brandy drinker, so I don't really know what good brandy is. But I've had this before. You can see this bottle's almost gone. That's actually because I used it to make wassail over Christmas. But I've taken shots of this, and I was not very pleased with the taste. So I may potentially finish this bottle off tonight. We'll just have to wait and see. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour my first shot. And I have an orange juice. Damn it, I overpoured a little. I have an orange juice chaser to go with this, and I don't have much orange juice left. But anyway, I'm actually kind of excited to read this one because Jacob and I published our books around the same time, and we've kind of been watching each other's success. So anyway, let's get started. Chapter 1. I'm going to go ahead and take my first shot. I'm not looking forward to this alcohol. I am looking forward to reading the sample. Yep, it's horrible. Alright. It wasn't easy waiting to see if you'd live or die. It was why the old man at the front of the line took his sweet, precious time. He wallowed forward, lifting his cane and placing it down again, step by step. The echo of the cane on the terminal floor was like the ticking of a clock, each excruciating beat bringing me 1 second closer to my turn, my dance with fate. The soldier managing the line barked through the air purifier tusks of his gas mask. "Hurry up or I'll throw you into quarantine." The man stopped dawdling and stepped into the bioscan. He slouched his shoulders and muttered a quiet prayer to himself. A few seconds passed and a green light appeared above the machine, followed by a single shrill beep. The passenger was free to go. The old man hurried away towards baggage claim. The armed shoulder yelled, "Next!" and the line shuffled forward. 4 people stood ahead of me, 4 more turns until my own. A little boy in front of me tugged at his mother's arm. "I don't want to go through there, Mommy," he said. "Please." The woman's face was pale and she had bags under her eyes. She gripped her son's hand tightly and said, "Shh, it'll all be over soon." But the little boy was far from comforted, tears forming in his eyes. I crouched down and smiled at the kid. "Why are you crying, little guy?" The boy sniffled and wiped his eyes. "'Cause I don't want to walk in there." "It's scary, huh?" He nodded. "But think about this. You had to go through the same scan before you got on the plane, didn't you?" "Yeah." "And you must have been cleared, healthy as ever, otherwise you wouldn't have been allowed to even get on the plane, right?" The boy nodded his head again. "So do you really think you would have gotten sick between now and the last scan?" "I don't know," said the kid. "Well, did you eat the veggie option?" The boy shook his head empathetically. "Of course not." I smiled at him. "Then you're fine." The kid laughed, vindicated for his dislike of vegetables. "You're almost through," I said. "Don't worry." I stood back up and the woman smiled at me. "Your mother must be so proud of you." I shrugged awkwardly, not wanting to disappoint her with the truth. The guard ended our conversation abruptly, yelling, "Next!" The woman bent down and kissed her son on the forehead. "Wait here and join me on the other side in a minute." The woman walked through the 2 metal walls of the bioscan. The device scanned her body, searching for any signs of the virus. The machine buzzed and a green light flashed. The woman stepped forth onto the other side. "Your turn, buddy," I said to the kid. He took a few hesitant steps before rushing between the detector's walls. As the scan commenced, the boy shivered. His whole body trembled. It was horrible to watch. The shrill beep went off and the green light flashed. The boy ran to his mother, jumping into her arms. They hugged and kissed before grabbing their things and hurrying towards the exit. They had made it. They were free to enter the country. The boy turned around, smiled at me, and waved. "Next!" Honestly, I thought the kid wasn't going to make it. I was a little scared about that. Anyway, I stepped forward, passing between the 2 armed guards, and entered the scanner. The process was no different from going through a metal detector. The only thing you felt were your nerves. I stood there as the machine scanned my body for bacteria and deadly cells. I closed my eyes and counted the seconds. There was nothing to be worried about. Just as I told the kid, I'd gone through the exact same scan only a few hours ago. Nothing had changed. I waited for the beep. Silence. I lifted my head to see if a green light flashed. Nothing. I turned around to get confirmation from one of the guards. Instead, I found an assault rifle pointed at my chest. "Stay right where you are," said the guard from behind his gas mask. He had a rough voice with a slightly country twang. "Don't move." "What's going on?" I said. "There must be a mistake." I whipped around and another guard was already there, semi-automatic, ready in hand to blow my brains out. "If you do not calm down, we'll be forced by law to subdue you." I didn't move. I didn't open my mouth. Anything I did would be taken as a threat from these guys. All I wanted to do was elbow them in the face and run for it. But somehow I knew if I did, I would be begging them to shoot me. The soldiers kept my head in their crosshairs. Army boots smacked against the floor, getting louder and louder. Security had sent out reinforcements. 2 new armed guards took position in front of the bioscan and started processing people. The guard at my back patted me down and confiscated my phone, wallet, and passport. "Hey, I need those." "Not where you're going," muttered the guard, patting me down. Once finished, the other soldier said, "Follow me." He spun around and marched forward. I stood still, frozen with fear, paralyzed. What was about to happen? The guard behind dug the barrel of his gun deep into my skin. A sharp pain ripped across my back. "Move it." I caught up with the marching guard while the other one followed behind, making sure I didn't run for it. We entered a back stairwell and headed down the steps. A cold draft swept through. My teeth shivered and my shoulders shook. At the bottom was an open door leading to the tarmac. Waiting for us there amongst the airplanes and runways was a green army van, engine running. The guard opened the back door and climbed in. Behind me, the soldier kicked my back with his boot, knocking me into the van. "What the hell?" "Shut up," said the soldier, climbing in after me and shutting the door. He signaled the driver. "Take us to the quarantine facility." I got up off the van's floor and sat down in the corner seat. "What are you guys planning to do to me? What exactly have I done?" The guard, who was a complete dickhead, turned to me and lifted his gloved hands to his head. He fiddled with his gas mask and pulled it off. The man behind the mask had a boxy head with a square jaw. He had a standard army buzz cut and blue stoic eyes. He blinked and a string of numbers and code fell along the side of his right eye. No wonder this guy didn't give a shit. He was an android. "Passenger 1307B, he said. "Clay Hopewell, age 24 years old, citizen of United North America, arriving from Charles de Gaulle Airport, Paris, France, flight number 248. You've been put under immediate arrest for breaking international law by the decree of—" "Breaking the law? How so?" "Isn't it obvious, dumbass?" said the jerk guard, who kept his gas mask firmly on his head. "You got 0. You're a ticking time bomb now, bud. I'm sure those French fucks are really happy with themselves for kicking out all the foreigners." My arm shook, my shoulders shuddered. If what they said was true, I only had a few days to live. "I was fine a few hours ago," I said. "How is this even possible?" "You're asking the million-dollar question," said the guard. We drove along an empty runway towards a large airplane hangar. Surrounding the perimeter of the building was a scaffolding of barbed wire, armed guards, sentry towers, and machine gun turrets. We slowed down at a parking gate. The driver poked his head out and spoke with another masked soldier. They exchanged a few words, and then the barrier lifted. We drove on towards the hangar. The army vehicle halted beneath the shadows of the large building. "We're at your stop," said the jerk guard. "Come on, out you get." He grabbed my jacket collar and dragged me out of the van. All the turrets from the different sentry towers pointed down at my section of the tarmac. The guard led me over to a small shed-like building attached to the hangar. He punched in key commands and a metal door slid open. "You enter the quarantine zone through here," said the guard. "We'll lock the door behind you." "Is there a phone in there? How will my family be alerted of my whereabouts?" The guard shook his head. "Don't worry. That's all been taken care of." I clenched my fists and swallowed my anger. I brushed past him, heading into the quarantine zone. "Okay," said the guard. "We'll open the next door after we've sealed this first one. If you don't enter the hangar, we'll come in there and exterminate you." He punched in the key commands again, and the door slid closed, sealing me off from the outside. The room was a cold concrete square. A metal door slid open, granting me entrance into the airport hangar. The open doorway revealed a pitch-black room. The darkness was impenetrable. A stench wafted out from the hangar's entrance. It was like a mixture of rotten meat and shit combined. The smell made me not want to go any further. The guard's voice cut through my thoughts. "We'll exterminate you." I lifted my t-shirt above my nose and stepped into the room. The metal door slid closed behind me. The lights above flickered on, and the sight was unbelievable. Horrible. This was the quarantine facility? The floor was a sea of corpses. A few wrangled on the ground in their own vomit, moaning, but the majority of them were dead. In the furthest corner across the hangar was a heap of bodies, the mound like a pile of garbage at a scrapyard. Instead of rubber bags and broken bottles, there were bloated limbs and the occasional head, frozen in Sloth's contorted gasp of life. They were empty husks, their skins saggy and hollow like deflated balloons. Snapshot of my future. My stomach churned. I spun around and banged on the sliding door. You have to let me out of here! I banged on the steel door with my fist until it was red and aching. Fuck! I leaned my head against the wall. What the hell am I going to do? An odd gurgle echoed from behind. I turned around and scanned the bodies. Is someone else in here? Hello? Emerging from behind the tent was a pale, dismembered hand clenched between the mouth of a wrinkled old lady. The woman had long, sweaty gray hair with patches of red blood stains. Her eyes were yellow and her nose was scrunched like a vicious wolf. She crouched on the ground, her arms hanging between her legs. She dropped the limb from her mouth, swallowing back a piece of flesh. She pulled her dinner close to her and growled at me. Trust me, I said, I don't want any. She growled louder this time and then barked. What was wrong with this woman? I got the sense she was telling me to get lost, to leave her to her tasty human limb. Fine by me. I stayed where I was, halfway across the hangar from her, but she didn't stop staring. She didn't blink. She growled and bared her teeth. I don't want any trouble, I said. I'm going over this way. I'll leave you alone if... She hissed, spit flinging from her teeth. She rushed towards me and jumped, fingernails out, ready to claw my face off. I lifted my foot and kicked her right in the stomach. She fell onto the pavement. She rolled over on the floor, got back up, and ran at me again. This time I kicked her in the head. Fuck off, lady, I said. I ran from the door. The woman's heavy panting encouraged me to run faster. I spun round, and she was already halfway in the air, claws out. She dug her sharp nails into my shoulders and pushed me on the ground. Her sweaty, blood-drenched hair fell into my face along with her spit and bile, drool dripping on my cheeks as her lips opened wide for a big chomp of my flesh. I grabbed her neck and pushed her away. She caught hold of my arm and pinned it to the floor. She did the same with the other. The woman's strength was overpowering. I kicked her, but she used her feet to keep my legs down. She had me trapped. Her hot breath poured down on my face. She licked her teeth with her tongue, rating herself for her fresh meal. I was zombie chow mein. I closed my eyes, wanting to be eaten alive when a burst of... Waiting. Nobody wants to be eaten alive. I closed my eyes, waiting to be eaten alive when a burst of machine gun fire echoed across the hangar. The deranged woman wailed in pain, shrieking. She collapsed onto my chest. Her body was sticky and warm. I pushed her off and scrambled to my feet. What the hell was going on? Back by the hangar entrance was a guard in a gas mask holding an assault rifle. I recognized his rough voice straight away. Mr. Hopewell, said the guard, someone very important has ultimate plans for your future. Alright, chapter 2, time for another shot. This book has a very strong beginning. I'm liking it so far. I'm a hoe bag for zombies. Not in like a weird sexual way, but I really love zombies. I dream about them a lot. So, this is appealing to me right now. Not sure why, but I've had an obsession with zombies for quite a while. It's not because I'm an edgelordy, I swear. Alright, so you can't even tell, I very tinily, slightly underpoured this time because I overpoured last time. But here we go for chapter 2. Oh, that's horrible. If someone wants to recommend me some good brandy, I'm willing to try something good, but I've yet to find a brandy I like. Anyway, chapter 2. Alternative plans, I grumbled. After you left me here to fucking die? I ran at him across the corpse-strewn floor, ready to body tackle him to the ground. When I got close enough to grab him, he spun on the heel of his rubber boots and knocked my head with his elbow, bashing me to the floor. He grabbed my shirt collar and dragged me through the door back into the shed. You son of a... The soldier grabbed my wrist and twisted my arm. He paralyzed me in his grip. We were following protocol. They'd send me in there if I refused to do my job. He let go and I stumbled to the floor. Be happy you're out. I've never seen anyone sent in there and come back. I stood up and wiped the lingering zombie drool off my face with the collar of my shirt. What the hell is going on? People aren't just dying of zero in there. Something worse is. Preach it to someone else. I don't care. I'm following orders. Now put that on. He pointed to a white plastic suit on the ground. What the? It's a quarantine suit. Nothing you breathe in or out leaves that suit. It's an insurance policy. Now put it on. I still wanted to punch this guy, but I did what he said. I picked up the suit, unzipped it, and stepped inside. It took me a moment to wiggle my legs through, but it worked. The soldier came up behind and zipped the back of the suit closed, including the airlock which kept my infected breath from spreading. The soldier then pulled off his backpack and handed it to me. It was an oxygen tank with a bendable hose. It attached itself to the clear plastic face mask of my suit. I screwed it in and lifted my arms up at the guard. Happy? The guard grunted and spoke into a radio walkie-talkie. All clear. Please open first door. Over. The door slid open, and we exited back onto the tarmac. The machine gun turrets aimed right where I stood. Good to see you again, too, I muttered. I followed the guard towards the parking gate. As we got closer, something different came into view. A man in a tailored black suit and tie leaned against a silver BMW, taking a drag of a cigarette. His brown hair was combed back, and he wore black sunglasses, despite the fact it was A, nighttime, and B, it made him look like a total douchebag. It was none other than my older brother, William Hopewell. He threw the cigarette on the floor and stubbed it out with his black leather... I have no idea how to pronounce that. Brogues? I probably butchered it. Anyway, he nodded at the guards and said, "Leave him with me, thank you." Next, my older brother opened the door to his car and said, "Come on, Clay, we don't have any time to waste." Alright, there is another scene break here. So that means another shot for me of this super, super gross brandy. Pouring again. I'm actually going to try to get it even this time. We'll see if that happens. It's kind of hard when you're holding it up. But slight overpour again. Not quite as bad as last time. Alright, let's go with it. Oh, that still tastes horrible. Black asphalt rolled past as... Hold on, let me scroll down. I was reading like the sentence was cut in half. I thought I could get through it. Just gotta make sure. Black asphalt rolled past as Will sped down the highway. He weaved in and out of traffic, cars honking as we passed them. He kept his eyes on the road, fixated on the city's glowing towers of neon in the far distance. The engine rumbled. The speedometer kept going up. I gripped the door handle for balance and peace of mind. Will jerked the steering wheel to the right, cutting across the road towards an exit lane. "Where are we going?" "Right now?" said Will, hands gripping on the wheel. "We're taking a shortcut." We drove off the highway and entered a part of the city I'd never been to, a neighborhood on the outskirts. Half the street lamps didn't work, and the others flickered on and off, soon to be broken themselves. The road was littered with broken glass of smashed storefront windows. The only items not stolen from these places were their "for sale" signs. Graffiti adorned the walls of buildings. In deep red letters were the words, "The end is now." Smoke billowed from a trash can. A raccoon rushed across the street, and I nearly jumped. I'd be a lot happier once we were out of this dilapidated neighborhood. Shadows moved behind the second-story windows of nearby buildings. "Are you sure this is a safe area to be in?" I asked. Will stroked his hair and gritted his teeth. "We're fine." We continued down the street, passing more fiery trash cans. Smoke enveloped the car, concealing the road ahead. Out of the clouds, figures appeared, shadowy lumps, hunched silhouettes. They stood in our way, blocking our passage. They moved towards us. They were scraggly homeless people, men and women, passing around a bottle of whiskey. Their eyes were drooping and bloodshot. Most of them were missing teeth. One held a baseball bat. Another held a piece of wood with a rusty nail. Will blasted the car horn. They ignored him and gathered around the car. More figures joined the original gang, appearing out of the smoke and shadows. They pushed the car back and forth. Then a baseball bat came swinging at the window closest to me. I recoiled with a loud thump. The glass cracked. One more hit and it would disintegrate into tiny shards. Will honked the horn. "Fuck this!" He pulled the car into reverse and slammed on the gas. He knocked a whole crowd of people to the ground. He changed gears and drove with the scraggly rioters in front of us. They dove out of the way, and we zoomed down the street. A man in a ripped jean jacket ran after us with a green bottle, a flaming cloth dwindling at the neck of it. "Step on it, Will!" I yelled. The rioter screamed and threw the bottle in our direction. The bottle twirled in the air, flying towards the back trunk of the car. Will swerved and the bottle smashed inches away from us, erupting into a blast of flames. Will kept his foot on the engine, and we shot our way down the street. The wall of flames shrank behind us as we drove away. We turned onto a main road, one with working street lamps and other cars. "Holy shit!" I gasped. "Well, what the hell is going on? Where are you taking me?" Will shook his head and wiped his eyes. "You know I do everything in my power to help you. You know that, right?" I sighed and asked, "Are you telling me there's a secret cure for zero that only corporate big shots know about?" Will shook his head and glanced down at his watch. "We're running out of time. There is no cure, Clay, but there is a preventative measure. You may have already heard of it. Do you know the video game Arcane Kingdom?" My eyebrows furrowed. I was surprised on multiple levels. Firstly, Will and I had spent entire holidays in our basement in the glow of early Arcane Kingdom games. How had he forgotten? Our parents were very anti-video games, so we had to pull our allowances and cumulative birthday money to buy an out-of-date console older than we were and a copy of Arcane Kingdom 6. We only had enough for one controller, so I sat beside Will as he played the game. Even just watching it had been mesmerizing. So cute to me, I'm sorry. So cute. The second reason for my surprise was my brother's current rescue plan was batshit insane. Back in the day, the Arcane Kingdom franchise rivaled its competitors Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. The series had been the hot new franchise until 30 years ago, the creator and founder of Tricorp, Conrad Takashimi, announced the development of Arcane Kingdom Online. The new game promised to take the storytelling, adventure, and wondrousness of the classic single-player series and connect people around the globe in a hyper-immersive virtual reality experience. The announcement came with much fanfare, but after a few years with no new developments, the game quickly disappeared from the public consciousness. A couple of decades later, it had been all but forgotten. The earlier titles in the series were spoken of with a quiet awe and fervor, but AKO was now more of a myth than an actual game. People said the production had bankrupted the company, while others believed Conrad Takashimi had secretly died. No one had seen the creator or his daughter, Bettina, in years. Everything changed last week when the company issued a press release stating that those suffering from the Zero virus were invited to upload their mind to AKO and live a digitally reincarnated life online. All the retail VR capsule pods had sold out in minutes, and the waiting list had already grown well into the millions. How did you even get your hands on the equipment? Let's just say my company saw a great opportunity investing in the Tricorp software. That's all I'm at liberty to say. The BMW screeched to a halt outside the city's hospital. The parking lot was a mess of cars and shanty tents. EMTs weaved patients on stretchers through the crowd of vehicles and homeless refugees. Police managed the crowd, keeping the hysteria to a minimum. The homeless campers gawked at me and my white quarantine suit. One woman ran up to us. "Please, help me. I'm dying out here." We quickened our pace and the woman gave up on us, running over to someone else to beg. The inside of the hospital was as chaotic as the outside. Nurses and doctors ran frantically in every direction. The phone rang and showed no signs of stopping. Will grabbed hold of a nurse by the arm. "Excuse me," she said. "I don't know if you noticed, but I got a hospital to run." "Sorry," said Will. "We're looking for the Zero Tricorp emergency wing." The nurse sighed and said, "The Tricorp wing is in sub-basement too. Take the elevator over there." We hurried over to the elevator. It was empty, offering us a brief respite from the hysteria of the rest of the hospital. Will scratched the back of his head and looked at his watch again. The way he was acting, you'd think he was the one on the verge of death. The door slid open, revealing a quiet hallway, empty except for one woman sitting on a bench. My mother. She was her typical professional self, her hair tied tightly in a bun, thick black glasses, tweed jacket with a matching skirt, her heels clanging against the hospital floor as she came to hug me. As you can tell, the alcohol is kicking in. I'm starting to slur a little. Sorry about that. I embraced her and said, "I didn't know you were coming." Her eyes were sad and melancholic. "Clay, it's good to see you. It's been—" She paused. "Too long." "Where's Dad?" "He had a lecture," she said quickly and looked away. I mustered a smile. Of course he did. The three of us stood there in silence, basking in our awkward family reunion. As always, I was the odd one out. Between my brother dressed in his banker's business suit and my mother in her academic attire, I was clearly the one who didn't belong. Some things never changed. A woman in a lab coat appeared from down the hall and walked towards us. She had red hair that fell past her shoulders and brown hazel eyes. "Good evening," she said. "I assume you are the Hopewells." She turned to me in my quarantine suit. "And you must be Clay." I nodded. "Before we continue, I need you to sign a form agreeing to the operation we're about to do. So you understand how it works, the Tricorp headset connects nano-sized neurocerebral transmitters to and from the user's brain, creating a simulation wave that adapts and envelopes one's central nervous system and consciousness within the nerves and data algorithms of Arcane Kingdom Online. You will do this from inside a glass containment pod full of psi-sensory liquid gel. This helps create deep immersion for the user. It also allows us to monitor your physical health from here in the hospital. The hope is we'll be able to keep your body alive long enough to complete the cognitive upload process, which takes roughly 48 hours. I'm legally obligated to tell you 20% of users who undergo the process do not survive. If you still wish to continue, please sign here. She lifted up a hollow pad and showed me a long legal contract and a place to sign. This was it, my one and only chance at survival. Will gave me a reassuring glance. Mom did the same. I wasn't ready to say goodbye to them, or to this life, or to this world. But what other choice was there? Shivering, I leaned in closely to the hollow pad and squiggled my finger across the air, committing myself to the process. The doctor headed towards the swinging doors of the operation room. Before she left, she turned around and said, "Please step through here when you're ready." Will hugged me tight. "Good luck, little bro." He let go and wiped a tear from his eye. "It's your turn now. I hope you're paying attention to our basement." "I hope you were paying attention in our basement." I grinned. "I thought you had forgotten." "Never. I was worried you had." I shook my head. "No way. I'm so bitter at how much of the game you hogged yourself." One I hugged one last time, and then I turned to Mom. She was as stoic as she'd always been. Her eyes were clear. "Mom," I said, "I know you and Dad didn't always agree with my life choices. Dropping out of college, and it's fine," she said. "Well, I want you to know, even though we spent all this time apart, I know. You don't have to say anything." I sucked in air. "Goodbye, Mom." She nodded her head and went down the hallway. As I pushed through the doors, my mother called out, "Clay!" I turned around. Tears filled her eyes and her lips quivered, and all the words she wanted to say stumbled and disintegrated at the shivering border of her mouth. Oh, I lost it. I lost it. Okay. There we go. The doctor placed her hands on my shoulder, urging me to come forward. "Wait!" my mother yelled, an exasperated croak echoing across the hospital hallway. "Good luck," she said, and swallowed the lump in her throat. She scratched her neck, clawing at where the words she struggled to express lay trapped. She wanted to say more, tell me all the things she and my father had never said to me growing up. Like they believed in me, and were proud of me and loved me. And maybe she was going to, but right as she opened her mouth, I was swept in the next room, never to see her again. "We're running out of time, Clay," said the doctor. A sleek black containment pod with the Tricorp logo etched on it stood in the center of the room. "If you'll please unzip your suit and enter the chamber. But isn't it dangerous for you if I take off?" She tilted her head in confusion. The doctor was an android. She didn't care. I undid my suit. "You have to take all your clothes off," the woman said. "Once naked, please enter the pod." I took all my clothes off, shivering more and more with every layer I took off. Butt naked, I walked over to the capsule and climbed into it. The doctor followed behind and placed the Neuro VR set over top my head. Next, she closed the glass roof of the capsule. "The procedure will begin shortly," said the doctor, clicking buttons on her hollow pad in the air. Gelatinous purple liquid oozed into the capsule. This must be the sensory gel. After a few moments, a voice spoke from the headset. "Hello, Clay Hopewell. You are attempting a complete cognitive upload into Arcane Kingdom Online. Before proceeding, you must verbally accept the Tricorp's terms and agreements, as well as a legal waiver stating you are fully aware of the risks and consequences with complete immersion uploading. Do you accept and agree?" I gulped. "There is no turning back now. Yes. Are you ready to log into Arcane Kingdom Online?" I took a deep breath, nodding my head and answering the prompt. "I am ready to log in." Alright, so, sorry, I have like this weird itch that I quite obviously can't actually scratch. So we are heading into Chapter 3. Oh my god, I think I'm gonna run out of this before Chapter 4. So, Chapter 3. I'm almost out of orange juice as well. Alright, so I'm getting ready to start Chapter 3, but you should also know that I am a little bit impaired, so I may slur a little bit. So let's get started. The capsule vibrated and shook. The sensory gel filled the pod. The voice prompt in the headset said, "Entering Arcane Kingdom Online." A powerful drowsiness overtook me. My eyes weighed with a great heaviness until I closed them shut and I fell into a deep sea of nothing. Then, like a snap of fingers, I was up above, lost in a gorgeous cerulean sky. I floated in the clouds without arms or legs or even a body. I was an ethereal being. Then I plunged, shooting through the clouds. Out of the puffs of air emerged a large continent floating in the sky. The land went on in every direction. Mountains, forests, valleys. Water from streams fell from the continent and into the airy depths below. Illyria once existed as a single landmass floating above the endless sea, said a scholarly and feminine voice in my head. But thousands of years ago, all of that changed. I flew closer to the landmass, zooming through snowy mountain peaks. The tall, natural spires rumbled. Avalanches crashed down like wintry tidal waves. One mountain erupted with volcanic lava. The ground below cracked and separated. The land ripped apart from its very foundations. A family of elk were separated by the shifting land masses. Towns and cities tore in two. Hundreds of people fell through the cracks into the ocean of sky below. The great rupture split the world into 5 continents, said the prompt as I flowed through the new scenes. I was on the edge of a landmass watching magical pirate airships be built by tiny fox-like creatures. Next I was running through the forest with a group of rangers. Then I was in a market square watching exotic goods be traded in exchange for glimmering gold coins. Rushing through the air, I approached the incredible towers shooting upwards into the sky like the needle of a rapier. The floating world of Illyria would never be the same. Old alliances shattered, and new ones emerged. What role will you take in the future of Illyria? I rode up the side of the tower and flew back into the beautiful blue sky. I went higher and higher, heading for the stars, the galaxy of this other world. I traveled through the cosmos, past shooting stars, meteors, and gorgeous nebula, until eventually I arrived at a black sea of nothing. The darkness dissolved and I was standing in a sandy desert until under a misty sky. I was back in my body, clad in a light cloth shirt and shorts, no longer an invisible ethereal puff floating through the shifting historical landscape of Illyria. It was such an abrupt transition I felt my knees sinking into the desert sand. I grasped at the twilight sky above me. I dug my hands in the sand and let it pour through my fingers. This wasn't like a video game at all. I stood up and ran over to a nearby oasis and kicked the water. It rippled and flew through the air before splashing back in the small pond. I bent down and splashed water on my face. It felt cool and refreshing on my skin. This was far beyond anything I expected. I lifted the palms of my hands. The detail and texture was amazing. Every crisscrossing line and wrinkle was there. A breeze ruffled my hair. A dry, humid odor tickled my nostrils. I felt every single sensation. Wherever I was, Arcane Kingdom Online, Illyria, or digital purgatory, as indistinguishable from the reality in which I had just come from. So I'm going to say right now, I only have one more drinking game before I come for full circle, and I believe this is the first drinking game I ever played, so it's also kind of special for me in this that I'm taking his book, which is somebody who is not, I don't want to say is a rival, but who is definitely like a writer friend that is close to me, and doing his book, so it's kind of like super cool. But anyway, let me keep going. The clear pool of water caught my reflection. It was enough to make me jump back in surprise. I cautiously stepped back and peered into the pond. My reflection hovered between the surface and the rocky sand below. It's quite me. The image was partially myself, scruffy brown hair, green eyes, pale white skin from spending too much time inside reading comics and playing video games. There was even a brown dot, a birthmark I'd always had, lying beneath my right ear. Even that had survived the initial upload process of the game. But somehow I looked better, more in shape, a handsomer, more individual version of myself. A window display appeared in front of me. The screen showed a full-body image of myself, loads of customization prompts for changing my face, gender, race, and name. So this was the character creation zone. I examined the window display. Under the race tab, I was currently classed as Hayren, Arcane, and yes, the Hayren. Ah, yes, the Hayren. All the previous Arcane Kingdom games had used this name to refer to the human equivalent race. I clicked on the button. Hayren, Arcane, and a new window popped up. Hayren. The Hayren are Illyria's youngest, most populous race. Their friendly nature and desire for travel, be it by foot, carriage, or airship, has led them to create towns and cities across the 5 continents. All Hayren, except for the Orensbarn, have access to all professions and classes and start with a neutral to friendly stance with all other races. My information followed about my specific subrace. Hayren, Arcane. Arcarians are known as the wealthiest and noblest of the 5 Hayren sub-races. That is, if you ask them. As citizens of the most populous and powerful continent, Arcarians believe themselves to be the true leaders of all Hayren people and Illyria as a whole. The lowest beggar of their capital city, Ryer's Ascension, would lift his nose up at the most powerful noble of any of the other 4 continents. Arcarians start with a positive stance to all other Hayren subraces, except for Largardians, for whom they share a neutral stance, neutral with other races. I did not like the sound of these Arcarians. but I bet they came with an optimal starting position if nothing else. I recalled the awesome sky towers from the opening cinematic. That must have been their capital. Rise Ascension. It would be cool to explore. It was certainly worth considering. Though did I want to enter the world as its snobbiest focal point? Not so sure. I clicked a button on the interface, returned to Hayrun subraces. New page appeared with the entire list of different Hayrun subraces. Arcane, Lergardian, Ornsboran, Brenzorish, Salmini. Oh man, this was getting super complicated fast. 5 subraces? Plus there were all the main races to contemplate as well. The depth and complexity of this game was coming to life in these early choices. I clicked the Lergardian options, partially because, well, option, like not plural, partially because they were the second choice on the list, but also because from the neutral stance mentioned before, they did not care for the Arthurians very much, which I took as a positive indication. Hayrun, Lercardian. Lercardians are the Hayrun citizens of the second largest floating continent in Illyria, Largard. 2 landmasses are separated by the Great Cloud Ocean, the Rift. Tensions between Largard and Arthkar have always been strained as the Largardian royal family refuses to swear fealty to the Arthkarian High Council. The Guardians have a neutral stance with all higher-end subraces, neutral with all of the races. Interesting. The Largardians on paper were weaker than the Arthkarians in terms of racial bonuses, but it sounded like they had a more interesting starting position. World events would be centered around Largard, and such occurrences meant rare items and awesome loot drops. This was something to consider. Curious about the other races, I pointed my finger in the air and pressed on the Return to Hayrun races button, which then let me press Return to Playwell races. A new list appeared in front of me. Airy, Hayrun, Lorana, Moo, Rorn. My mouth drooled at all the options. With some games I'd spend hours in character creation, experimenting with different builds and races. It was a whole game unto itself. The harsh reality of my current situation was different. This wasn't a game for me anymore. I couldn't build a character, mess around with him, and then build another. No, this was the start of a new life. I only got one character, one chance to get it right. I took a deep breath and started scrolling through the races. There was the dwarf-like Rorn, short, stout, and incredibly strong. Then there was the Lorana, a nomadic humanoid cat race specializing in both the merchant arts along with rogue and assassin classes. Sorry, part of me read the Eat race, which made me think of Divinity and the elves. Anyway, I'm gonna keep going. There was a tiny and admirable Moo, a fox-like race who were natural-born healers and artisans. All of them were intriguing, but none of them spoke out to me. I clicked back to the start of me in frustration. Only one main race remained, the Ari. After clicking them, I would have to make a decision, and so far I wasn't sure what I wanted. Would I simply settle and do the easiest option of Harun? I selected Ari and felt myself get taller. My stomach sucked in on itself, my body slimmed out, my ears grew sharply angled and pointy. The color of my eyes turned violet. Damn, I was like a badass version of myself combined with Legolas. Definitely an elf race. Anyway. Ari, one of the oldest races of Illyria. The Ari believe they are descendants of their mother tree, Gaia, in the Elder Woods. The Ari are adept magic users. They are at one with the innate mana coursing through them and the mana within nature and all life. In modern age, many Ari have wandered their forests and natural dwellings and have become great leaders, scholars and politicians in greater Illyrian society. Despite this, many Ari still tend to reside in their forest homeland, minimize their interactions with the other races of Illyria. All Ari get +5 bonus to spirit and magic attack power. They start at a neutral alignment with all races except the Rorn, which they begin at with a negative alignment. I felt a flutter of excitement with these guys. I toggle through the 4 subraces of the Ari. Subraces define themselves with an infinite affinity to certain elements. The Alhari prioritize air and water magic with the Murgain, while the Murgain were obsessed with harnessing the power of fire. Interestingly, the Chakran were fascinated with earth magic and crystallized mana, an interest which put them in a positive alignment with the Rorn race. But my race of the area was the original sub-race I chose, the Eldra. There was once a time when all area lived under the banner of Eldra. The Eldra believe in the Gaia tree and the spirit of all things coursing through the world, connecting us all. They don't seek to worship the one element over the other, but wish to harness the innate energy binding all life. Eldri Ari start with neutral alignment to all Ari subraces, neutral with all other races except for Warren, and wish to have negative alignment. So why was I digging this race so much? First off, I was like the aesthetic basketball player version of myself. Secondly, I really liked how they were big on magic. When I was younger, I always played easier tank classes like Warrior or Knight, but knowing I'd have to spend the rest of my life in this game made me really want to play a more complicated class. A small part of me also thought of my father, the academic. He never forgave me for dropping out of college. Well, mages and wizards, I don't know what the fuck a wizard is. Mages and wizards were the scholars of these games, the keepers of arcane truths and ancient texts. Pursuing such a path might make him proud if I ever did see him again. Alright guys, so this is the end of the sample. Again, this was Arcane Kingdom Online, The Chosen, by Jakob Tanner. His second book, good god, I'm slurring so bad. I'm a little bit drunk. Anyway, his second book just released. So yeah, if you've liked the sample, I highly recommend you read through this book and then grab the next one, because I do think it's very well written, and he's a super sweet guy. I hope you have a good day, a good night, a good week, good weekend, whatever time it is that you are watching this. Oh my god, I'm so hungry. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video.